Alright guys, today I'm going to be walking you through my DPS D3-FNC SMG Shredder build, but it's important to know before we get started that there are many versions of this build that perform different roles. You have an electronics-based support style role, you have a stamina-based tank role, and you also have the DPS version of this set. Overall, I do believe it is one of the most versatile sets in the game right now, and if there's genuine interest, I can also publish in-depth guides on all of these other builds, which I have already constructed, as you're seeing in the background right now. But I don't actually have all of that information condensed down into this video. So that will be coming in the future if people want to see it. But right now, I'm simply going to be covering the DPS version of the D3-FNC set. Starting off with my chest piece, I am running the Barrett's Bulletproof Vest. However, if you don't have this item, you can run Reckless and it will do just as much damage, if not more so. It is really important to know though, with Barrett's Bulletproof Vest, however, it synergizes very well with the shield. When you have your shield out in front of you, which is what the D3-FNC set allows with the use of an SMG, you are going to have that skill not on cooldown, which means if you're popping your booster shot, you're going to be perpetually proccing the one skill on cooldown increases damage by 5% section of the Barrett's Bulletproof bonus. So it synergizes extremely well, and I would recommend it if you have it. If you don't have it, Reckless will also perform the same role responsibilities and give adequate damage. For the role on the chest piece, it's important to know, again, I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm going to do a blanket statement right now. Every single piece of gear is rolled into firearms. I know the DPS builds might be getting a little bit old, and I will start to branch out and cover the support style electronics builds very soon, if not tomorrow. But I am going to be covering this one in DPS form. Again, the set is very flexible, and I will cover electronics builds soon. So for the specific roles here, every single piece of gear and every single mod is going to be firearms for the DPS version of this build. And for major attributes, you want health and skill haste. When your shield does go down, you need that skill haste to get it back quickly. And then health pound for pound is the best possible thing to roll on a chest piece right now, as it is equivalent to roughly 1,000 main stat of stamina. For a minor attribute, ammo capacity always helps, but it's not necessary. The mask is pretty straightforward. Since the set does allow for critical strikes now with the recent change, I would recommend rolling all resistances to critical hit chance, and then having a high main stat firearms roll. For minor attributes, you can opt for resistance or damage to elites. Either or is fine. It's not going to have a huge impact on the build in its entirety. For the knee pads, there's a little bit of flexibility here, but some people may disagree with my choices. I've opted to run critical hit damage as a major attribute. Now you can easily switch this out for health and pound for pound. That might be a better idea in terms of increasing your longevity and survivability, especially in PvP. In PvE, it won't matter as much, and critical hit damage might actually be better because you're absorbing all of the incoming damage reliably with the shield. However, in a spastic, sporadic PvP environment where players are flanking and hip firing, you may want to go with health to increase your toughness, and overall it is equivalent, like the chest piece, to about 1,000 main stat of stamina. So it is important to roll health here if you're worried about survivability, though I've opted to run critical hit damage as it fits into the whole glass cannon specialized role of the DPS D3-FNC set. Now I have run a firearms main stat here. Again, aim for over 1250 in every single roll if possible. It does normalize in last stand, but if you mean to take the build anywhere else in the world, whether it be PvE or in the dark zone, it will not normalize, which means you do need to aim for the highest possible main stat rolls in every category. Damage to elites is a great minor attribute here. Again, this performs extremely well in PvE. If anything, this is a better PvE set than it is a PvP set, though it does annihilate enemy players in PvP if used properly. For other minor attributes, I would always recommend having shock and burn resistance. You do not see that on these knee pads here. I was not blessed with rolling those when I acquired these. However, that is probably a good idea to run, as there are a lot of shock turrets, a lot of flame turrets, and a lot of seeker mines that can have disrupting status effects that are very detrimental to your overall experience. So rolling the different attributes or resistances in the minor attribute slot that you would like in PvP is going to be very helpful. Jumping on over to my backpack, you can see that I have opted to run health here. However, if you are going for that extreme glass cannon damage build, you can run critical hit damage instead. The health here is quite valuable, and I figured I would have it on at least one piece, whether it be knee pads or backpack, it doesn't really matter. But I figured I would have it on one piece to allow at least a little bit more toughness and survivability, and not go entirely down that route of just glass cannon, since it is pound for pound a really good major attribute to have. For a minor attribute, I have bleed resistance, which is kind of helpful. Bleed is an annoying status effect, but I would prefer to have shock or burn resistance. Again, main stat firearms, as likewise on every other piece in the build. Next up, the gloves, and I'm opting to run the Savage talent. This is a great DPS talent, especially with SMGs, and since the set can now crit, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. Again, a high main stat of firearms, and then for major attributes, the perfect trinity, which is SMG damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. There are other high ends that will work in the build. If you want to run tenacious, that works well. If you want to run specialized, again, very effective, because all of your main stat points are in firearms. You're going to get a lot of value out of that, but Savage is my recommendation for the DPS version of this build. Last up, we have our holster, and here it's a toss-up as a major attribute between skill haste and health. I've opted to run skill haste because I do want to recharge my shield extremely quickly if it does go down, and since it doesn't have very much health due to my very low skill power, it can go down in some fights, so I want that skill haste there, and I think it's very valuable. However, if you want to run health, that can increase your toughness a little bit, and it does have value. So it's up in the air in that regard. For a weapon, I have chosen this Navy MP5N for a variety of reasons. Number one, it has the right talents that I like, not necessarily the perfect god roll, but three that I find to synergize quite well. Has good base damage, has good RPM, and I really like the magazine size. However, before anyone asks this question, you can run a different SMG, particularly the MP7. A lot of people ask me in the live streams, is it viable with the D3-FNC set? Absolutely, yes it is. You do not have to run a Navy MP5N. You can pick out any other SMG that you're comfortable with and run that. It will be almost as efficient, if not more so, if you're used to that gun type, if you're used to that mag size, and if you really want to have higher burst damage, pick the MP7. If you want to have higher sustain damage, pick something like the PP19. It's quite flexible. Now for talents, I recommend having deadly, responsive, and competent in that order, or deadly, responsive, and unforgiving in that order. However, brutal is not a bad talent to run. There's a lot of different talents here that you can choose, but they aren't necessarily the best in slot. Deadly, responsive, brutal, unforgiving, competent, vicious, fierce in the third slot. All of these talents are going to be very, very strong. It's just a matter of combining which ones feels right or which ones you have access to on any given gun, and you can run with that with the build. For all of my gear mods, I'm opting to run firearms with health. However, I do believe this to be extremely flexible. If you want more toughness, you can run stamina mods with health, or even stamina mods with something like skill haste to increase the amount of times you can proc your booster shot, etc. If you do want more skill power, if you want more survivability in that respect, you're welcome to run electronics mods with either skill haste or health. There is flexibility here. Whatever you want to increase for your main stat, you can opt to run that type of mod, and it really is user's preference. There's a lot of flexibility with this set overall, again, through the use of different high ends, through the use of different mods, different skills. I'm just covering the best DPS version from my point of view. So in that regard, it's all about firearms with health. For all of my performance mods, I'm running ballistic shield damage. This is a slight point of contention, however. There's a lot of players spreading misinformation out there saying that the performance mods do not work with ballistic shield damage. They are wrong. I was in the firing range for about half an hour earlier on the live stream today, proving them categorically to be wrong. Ballistic shield damage does work in the performance mod slot, so if you'd like to raise your damage even further, go ahead and equip 4 of these. If you don't, however, if you want to increase your toughness, you can equip ballistic shield damage resilience instead. For weapon mods, there's a simple rule of thumb, and that is crit, crit, and more crit. You want an extended magazine with crit hit damage and crit hit chance. You want crit hit damage on your underbarrel. You want crit hit chance or crit hit damage on your suppressor or your muzzle brake. And then you want crit hit chance or crit hit damage and some headshot damage on your scope. For skills, it's extremely straightforward. All you want is booster shot on your self heal. That's absolutely essential. And then you want to have the assault shield modifier on the ballistic shield. Whether or not it's intended, right now the assault shield modification is working with all of the bonuses and especially the bonus damage when equipped to the shield. The language leads me to believe that this is not intended, however it is functioning right now. Again, I did spend about half an hour in the firing range testing this and the performance mods out, and it is functioning. You do get the damage, so run the assault shield, especially if you're going with the DPS variant. However, if you do want more survivability, reactive targeting is your best bet. For talents, I recommend running Triage, especially if you are in a squad. Combat Medic, which is essential to the build because this heals your shield as well for 40% of its maximum health. And also, if you are in a group, make sure to communicate to your squad mates to equip Combat Medic immediately. Their Combat Medic procs of their medkit will heal your own shield for 40%. This heals group members and proxies, that's very specific language, within 20 meters by 40. Again, so every single squad mate that pops a medkit will heal your shield if it is out in front of you at the time by 40% of its max health. That is what keeps your shield alive. There is no other source of healing the shield since you are not running the special backpack which allows you to heal it with your own skills, so you do need to have Combat Medic on and have your squad mates have it as well. Precision is great since you're not running your own pulse. If you get a headshot on a hostile, you'll pulse them and get the base amount of critical hit chance and critical hit damage, which boosts your DPS overall, so precision is a really great talent. One is none is fantastic. If you're walking with the shield aiming down sights, you're moving just fast enough to proc on the move if you get the killing blow with your bullets on an enemy agent, so it's quite good. And then the one thing I would recommend switching out if you go solo is one is none for Triage. If you do switch out one is none for Triage and aim for the head, you can increase your DPS even further, and that fits in with the whole premise of the build. Really quickly before I kick it over to the DPS build gameplay, I am going to talk about the bullet points of the other two builds since I know a lot of people will have questions. Number one is the tank build. You want to spec more into stamina, roll a lot of electronics and stamina pieces, have a lot of stamina mods or electronics mods with skill haste. You want all of your different performance mods to be ballistic shield damage resilience, and you want to have the nimble holster and either the Barrett's bulletproof vest or especially the vigorous chest piece. This will allow you to have a very strong overheal a lot of the time. You're going to be absorbing a ton of incoming damage, and for a weapon, you want to run the Midas. This will allow you to debuff enemy targets and decrease their damage, meaning that they can't kill you as fast, and it doesn't matter if you're the one dealing damage because you aren't specialized in firearms. You're just about absorbing damage through toughness, stamina, and various other healing mechanisms. For the skill power version of the build, you want to run the Inventive Backpack and the Barrett's Bulletproof Vest, or the Vigorous Chest Piece, or the Rapid Chest Piece. In particular, Rapid is going to be very powerful. You want to run First Aid Ally Heal performance mods, and you want to make sure that you're speccing everything into electronics with your mods and skill haste as well. And you're also going to run the Midas because you aren't the one dealing damage. It doesn't really matter if you debuff yourself, your healing isn't going to be affected. I will do in-depth stuff on this later on if people are interested. I just wanted to make sure that the bullet points were there and people could see the different builds and see how to build them if they wanted to, in passing, attempt them and see what they can do. Hopping into the gameplay, I was testing this in Last Stand so I could get some dedicated PvP, some reliable PvP, and I did have my buddy Jay Castro with me, though I didn't have any dedicated supportive healer or anything like that. We were just getting his, feet under him with the Last Stand game mode. As you can see, the build deals tremendous amounts of damage. It is afflicted with optimal range penalties. If you want to put some optimal range on your gun, that isn't going to hurt, but you are trying to get up close, especially with responsive, and you can crit for huge amounts of damage. A lot of players aren't prepared to deal with this. Once you are in a 1v1 scenario, the build is nigh unbeatable because they have to actually flank around you, and as long as you're fast enough on the sticks to keep the shield between you and your opponent, you will probably never go down. This build is really great for occupying enemy team members so that they aren't fulfilling objectives. If they're occupied with you and skirting around and they can't kill you, and you're dealing heaps of damage, forcing them back behind cover, getting kills, pushing them onto their back foot, it is going to be extremely powerful, and you're probably going to get farther ahead as a team if more members are dedicated to taking just you down instead of completing and capping objectives. It's a really fun build. It deals a ton of damage, especially if you spec primarily for crit like I have, all into firearms. It is really versatile. Like I said before, you can spec tank or, skill build, support, healer. But I find the most fun to be killing enemy agents. I really like to participate in the fast-paced run-and-gun PvP. And I really like having the shield in front of me because I feel like it's a deterrent and a barrier. Even though your shield is quite weak, it's very easy to heal it with Combat Medic. And every time your teammates pop a medkit, it's going to heal by 40%. And it's also just a very large barrier. People don't really want to fire into it. A lot of times players will just run up and not even shoot at it, even though it's a quite weak shield because you don't have that much skill power. They don't really know that. And even though it is weak, it's still 300,000 health that they have to get through, which they normally would not have to. And you can just wail on them and do a lot of damage in the interim between when they can get your shield down and when they actually can then kill you afterwards. Now, it is really good for taking down turrets. I don't have any footage of it to demonstrate right now. However, if you walk up on a turret with your SMG out and the shield in front of you, you can just stand right in front of it and take that turret down extremely quickly. Turrets are actually kind of a nuisance now. They deal a lot of damage in Last Stand, and if you are going up against one with a shield, it makes mincemeat of it, and you can just walk right up, take it out, and then cap the point, no problem. Also, the build is really good for protecting points. Since it does take a lot longer to kill you, even though you are glass cannon, because you have that ballistic shield in front of you, as long as you keep it between you and the target, you can actually hold down objectives and force other players to group up in larger amounts to recap their points that you've stolen. As you can see here, I'm actually back capping on A, and then multiple team members from the enemy team have to come in order to flank me and kill me because I can defend the point. They can't really stop me, even though 2 of them end up showing up. I think 3 of them. I kill a couple of them. The build is extremely strong in that regard. You can definitely drop targets. They still can't cap their point back, which means they're not gaining any points for this entire duration, which allows me to lock up the game and make sure that my team wins. As you can see there, I can kill him right through a signature. It has that much damage, and that is because the assault shield modifier and the performance mods are all working, and you have that much increased damage constantly. Actually, something like 34% when I was looking last at my character sheet when we were back doing the review a few minutes ago. That's a lot of damage to constantly have. Your MP5 is dealing ridiculous amounts pre-crit, and since you've spec'd into crit damage after that, you can just deal heaps of damage and drop players at will. I think it's a really fun build. I know that a lot of people may view it as cheese, and your shield is fairly weak though, so there is a trade-off. And even though some people may view it as cheese, I think it's fun not only to fight against in terms of flanking around and getting that kill, and also fun to play as because you have to keep it between you and your enemy. You have to be smart on when you position yourself and where you position yourself. And if you don't play smart, as you can see there, I died. Now, you can make plays and you don't absolutely need the shield. Since you are spec'd glass cannon DPS, you can still kill targets without the shield up, but you are extremely fragile. You can die, so it's important to, make sure that you're playing smart. You're breaking line of sight. That's just a general tactical tip as well. A lot of people tell me that my builds, the glass cannon versions are useless and that they don't want to run them because they don't have enough health and they feel like I'm, inaccurately advertising the metagame. And that may be true, but as you can see here, my shield did go down. I'm able to survive enough and consciously break line of sight and end up getting extra kills with a good grenade placement because I was consciously knowing where the enemy were shooting from, and even though I don't have very much health, I was able to keep myself alive regardless of that fact. So I really enjoy the build. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links below. As always, have fun, getting integrated with Upper Echelon, and we hope to see you around in the Facebook and the Discord, etc. And have a nice night.